The folks over at Banggood got a hold of me and asked if I'd be interested in reviewing the Anbernic RG351V handheld video game console. Since I'm a sucker for different ways to play all of my favorite retro games, I said sure. So the only question is, does it play those games well? That's what we're going to find out today, right here on Print and Play. First, let's get it out of the box. Removing the cover, we see there's a layer of foam added on top with cutouts for the buttons on the unit. Underneath the foam is the unit itself, covered in a plastic bag. The unit feels good in hand. It's got quite a bit of weight to it compared to some of the cheaper handheld emulators that I've used in the past, and it feels pretty solid. Also included in the box is a charging cable, some wipes to clean the screen, a screen protector, and some quick start documentation. From the top-down view, we can see that there are 4 shoulder buttons on the back, 2 on each side. On the right side of the unit is the power button and the reset button. There are also 2 microSD slots. One card houses the operating system, while the other one holds onto the ROMs. This unit came with a 16 gig card for the operating system and a 64 gig card for the games. The left side of the unit houses the volume control. And on the bottom of the unit we see 2 USB-C ports used for charging and connecting external devices, as well as a standard headphone jack. The front of the unit has a pretty decent selection of buttons, and the whole design is very clearly meant to channel the design of the original Game Boy. From left to right we have a D-pad and an analog stick. Then we have a function button as well as the select and start buttons. And finally we have the 4 action buttons, giving us lots of controls for various types of consoles. The display is a 3.5-inch 640x480 display, which is more than enough to tackle emulating anything from early Atari to Dreamcast. The colors on this display are very bright and vibrant. It looks really good. Like many of these systems do, mine came preloaded with a selection of ROMs from across various systems. It's good enough to get you started, but you'll probably want to clear them out and put on your favorite ones. The controls feel excellent. The buttons are responsive, have a decent travel distance to them, and were consistent. One complaint I've often had about emulation handhelds is that the D-pad is often squishy and doesn't roll nice from side to side when you rock your thumb on it. But the D-pad here is rock solid. Of course, the original Game Boy didn't come with an analog stick, but the addition of one on the RG351V is definitely welcome, and its placement is pretty good. So overall, the build quality is fantastic. The shell feels sturdy, the controls all feel very polished, and the screen is beautiful. But how well does that translate into emulation? Well, let's start off with the original Game Boy, the system it's been built to look like. The controls handle really well. They're extremely responsive and quite satisfying to press. The gameplay from Mega Man 2 looks great on this screen, and considering how slow and laggy the original screen on the original Game Boy was, this is quite an upgrade. Moving into consoles, I won't play all of them, but I wanted to get a feeling of the various generations. Original Nintendo games are no problem on the RG351V. I got a little distracted when filming footage and ended up playing Mario 3 all the way to the end. While certainly not the most difficult game, it still gave me a good feel for the responsiveness of the controls, and I didn't feel like playing on this handheld made it any more difficult. Moving into the 16-bit generation, Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis emulates in all of its blast processing glory. It did seem to get hints of screen tearing from time to time, but it was faint and it didn't detract at all from the experience. Mario Kart on the Nintendo 64 had the occasional minor slowdown, which caused a little bit of audio stuttering from time to time. It's nothing horrible, but if you're looking for 100% flawless emulation, it's good to know about. Mortal Kombat on the PlayStation played perfectly. The frame rates were smooth and even, and executing special moves on the controls was no problem. When I moved on to Twisted Metal, however, I did find one issue with the button layout. Having the L1 and L2 buttons side by side meant I constantly had to bend my finger at a slight, uncomfortable angle to press the L2. This may impact you less depending on the length of your fingers, but I must say that I do prefer my shoulder buttons from front to back instead of side to side. Moving into the Dreamcast territory, I loaded up Sonic Adventure 2. While it was completely playable, it's pretty obvious that the Dreamcast is on the edge of what the system can handle. There were slowdowns and stuttering audio which, while by no means a deal breaker for me, could potentially be distracting and annoying. Then again, just the concept of Dreamcast on such a compact device is really enough to keep me playing. Battery life was also really good, allowing me to fit in a variety of consoles over a 4.5 hour gaming window before I accidentally reset the stopwatch on my phone, and it kept going for at least an hour afterwards. Overall, the playing experience on the RG351V is fantastic. Its solid build quality, bright and vibrant display, and mostly great button layout really lend themselves to a variety of systems. If you're looking for a handheld that does a little bit of everything and fits in your pocket, this one may very well be the one for you. Thanks for watching until the end, and don't forget to toss me a thumbs up and subscribe for more retro gaming content in the future. And until next time, stay creative.